yo, good day, and welcome to another episode of Road FS Detail Memoirs. And we are coming in out of the cold, trying to warm our spirits, our bodies, our minds, and of course, bring you an awesome guest today. My name's Jody.
I'm Rod Pusey. Welcome to 2022. And our very first guest we're pretty excited about is Parker Richards from Colorado Boat Detailing, or as everybody calls him, the Boat Whisperer.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, you have been on my list to have on the show for a long, long time. I mean, you're just one of the nicest people I've ever met. And two, your passion and your business is around boats, and that is my passion. I love being on the boat. And you are also a GTechniq National Marine Trainer, so you travel all around the world or country and train people on how to detail boats. And it's interesting because as soon as I posted that you were going to be the guest, Jason Rose, he's like, yeah, that guy's one of the best in the industry. Yeah. And it's just everybody's really excited for today. So we're glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the obvious question that people have asked. So you're in Colorado, there's snow on the ground, and you detail boats. So a lot of people talk about adversity in their areas and like, oh, I can't do that because they salt the roads, or in the wintertime I'm dead. But you've actually found a real niche. And before we started, you were talking about know your market. So how have you turned being in Colorado and boats into a year-round business?
So for starters, it's really, as cliche as it is a time management issue. The two boats that I have in my shop right now, I booked in the middle of September, knowing that we were going to have weather come, and I still had a steady workflow, August, September, October, November, but I can see it like, hey, the snow's coming. So I had a couple guys reach out, say, hey, we have some, really large projects or full restoration on a 2000 Malibu. And right away, that tells me that's a winter project. That's not something I need to take on right now. And so just understanding that and knowing, hey, I don't have to do it right now. I can put it off into the future. And I'm really glad I did that because there's 5 inches of snow on the ground. But when I jump off with you guys, I'm going to the shop and, to finish polishing and still have work to do. So it's some planning and just knowing how your weather is here.
So one of the things that's I know that's new in the last probably year is, and I know we were talking about it a couple of years ago, MTE, is that the IDA now has a marine certification, which is fantastic because there's a lot of people that, there's a lot of different things there. You got aluminum boats, you got fiberglass boats, you got wooden boats. So for you, what is your kind of the one that you migrate to? Do you like the fiberglass, the metal? What's your thing?
I certainly work the most with fiberglass. Rarely do I see painted boats here. There are a few on some formulas. But the majority of what is here is fiberglass, and then a fair amount of pontoons. But with the short season, not getting a lot of people wanting tunes polished and that sort of thing. So I've really stuck to fiberglass and Gelcoat. And, also, again, knowing your market, working with multiple boat dealers in my area and in Denver. And, some of them send all of the details. Some of them send a handful, but it's just being aware. And, I really enjoy polishing Gelcoat. And so I found what I like and continued, went and stayed up on the training, went to the shows. I met you guys in 2014, I believe.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. So I think that part is important is, staying with the industry and continuing to go to events like Mobile Tech and go to trainings at Rupes and expand your knowledge as much as you can.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting to me is I've watched you over the years and known you. It's like you have not only doubled into your own talent, but you have moved into being one of the premier trainers and travel the nation, going to these premier boat shows. So, that's got to be an interesting dynamic of moving from your day-to-day job, Colorado boat detailing, but also putting on your boat show hat and your GTechniq marine trainer hat. So how are you balancing that as well as really tapping into those markets?
Well, for me personally, just from a physical standpoint, I've been grinding on boats a long time, and as we all know, the detailing catches up with you, and you got to take care of your body. And so part of the training is that knowing, hey, I can't do this forever, but I still want to be a valuable resource to the industry. And going to these boat shows, doing trainings allows me to give back, and I think about the guys that had helped me years ago. And, a high tide raises all ships in my book, right? So,
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I remember years ago, so many people were wanting to like, oh, I'm not going to tell you how we do this, and it's hold it close to the vest. Where I say, some guy in Nashville doesn't affect my bottom line. Why can't I tell him what I used, right? I mean,
yeah.
So it's been interesting balancing the traveling, but we meet so many great people at shows. I meet so many great people at trainings all over the United States, and just get to share my passion of, if you do the work correctly, you get your substrate, your gel coat, your fiberglass clean, you polish it correctly. As you know, it's all in the prep. Install your coating of choice. You're going to have good results, and then the aftercare of that, right? Maintenance is key, but the balance has been tough. The travel is fun. It's just, I think it's a timing and understanding, your schedule and your routine. I have a pretty strict routine every day. Go to the bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, and that's really helped me.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to talk about, and so this year, 2022, Jody and I are doing a lot of different things. We're going to take the opportunity to step outside from behind this table, and we're going to do a lot of hands-on stuff. So we've already started a series with Prentice St. Clair on business. We've already started videoing this series, but we're actually going to do a complete, basically a complete recondition on my truck. So we've already done some PDR work. We're going to do some polishing and stuff. And then Jody's got a really scaggy looking boat that
it's not scaggy. It's just
dude.
fogged
It
out.
used to be a red boat. Now it's
red.
pink. It's totally pink. So I call it the Barbie boat. So it's got a Barbie pink backside. So we're going to do some hands-on stuff just to kind of give, we want to bring consumer awareness. Why do you want to go to somebody that's professional? So for instance, on the PDR side, I did not do any of that because I suck at PDR. I can do conventional body work, but PDR, I do more damage than good. So we took it to a professional shop. Same thing with all the paint corrections and stuff. We'll take that to a professional shop, have some people help us out on Jody's boat so that the gel coat comes out right, like you said. So on boats, because it's gel coat and it's a different animal, it's not metal. Heat still affects it in a very adverse way. You can do damage, right? What do you, as just off the top of your head, and I know you've got a lot of tools and everything, but off the top of your head, what is kind of your go-to? Is it more of a rotary, or are you a gear-driven DA? What's your kind of go-to?
So my go-to is rotary and gear-driven DA. On occasion, we'll use a Rupes 15 or 21, or an LHR 75, which is their 3-inch electric.
Yep.
But the biggest thing is just understanding, when you go to look at a boat and you see some oxidation, I try to take the least aggressive first, right? And everyone wants to just jump right into rotary and go right into it. And I say, okay, simple way to see if you have a boat that's oxidized, grab a nanoskin disc and a degreaser, whatever your favorite degreaser is. Pick a section by hand, just run that nanoskin disc on there and see how much sludge comes off. That way you can say to yourself, okay, well, if it is a lot of material is coming off in that right there is going to tell you that boat is probably a candidate for some kind of sanding, right? Yep. But you haven't introduced any machine, and you're not, peeling material off with a rotary. And a lot of times with heavy oxidation in a rotary, you're really just pushing that oxidation around and not actually removing it. And if you look at the panel and then go to a 45, you'll see that some parts are shiny, others are not, and you still have that cloud and haze. So,
Yep. And I love that, because a lot of people, I think, So years and years and years ago, I used to teach a class at an electronics company that did semiconductors, and I taught this systematic troubleshooting. People generally in their brains want to go for the most difficult solution. There's oxidation. I need a heavy wool pad. I need a rotary. That's going to be on its end. I'm going to put a lot of pressure because you're aggressively trying to solve the situation. Whereas it's the opposite. Anytime you're troubleshooting any situation, you want to start with the easy solution. My personal boat, I have a boat, and the trailer was really oxidized. And when I got it secondhand. And the guy said, "Oh yeah, every year I'd make my kids get down on their hands and knees and hand wax the trailer." Right. And so I already know off the top of my head that this has had some stuff done to it. Right. I don't assume they've sanded it or anything, but I know they've got some wax on it. So I did exactly what you said. Is I went to one little section under a fender. It's a 4-inch rectangular area. And I just took a microfiber towel and I just I decontaminated it, washed it, and put a little bit of a clay mitt on it. And then I just did a little bit of polish by hand and just went over it. And it came right out. I mean, absolutely came out. So then I know, like you said, I'm going to go with the least aggressive foam pad, a mid-range kind of a, not really something that's a cutting, but just a polish, and see what it looks like. And it turned out really nice. And like you said, I didn't have to remove. It's single stage. So I've got a blue pad at this point, and I'm removing. That's the most visual thing you can see is a single stage paint with a pad that's like yellow and you got a blue paint. You're going to see what you're doing anytime you're polishing. You're removing material, and there's only so much material you can remove. So, for instance, on Jody's, that's my concern when we've looked at it. I'm like, I'm not a boat guy, but I know that that's really oxidized. We're going to have to do a test spot in the back underneath the
my little platform,
the little platform where
down on the stern. Yeah.
So we can get under there and see what it's got, because it's a great looking boat. There's one section that got done and it's beautiful. It's red like these foam pads. So
I have a question for you. So before we got on, because I think it's easy to get into all of the techniques, and the problem is you really got to be hands-on to get that. But getting onto the show, we were talking about being a good neighbor as far as how you're moving in and out with competitors, right? Because you're working with boat shops, but you can also do a lot of what they do. But let's talk about that delicate balance of, how you're managing those relationships.
Sure. Yeah. So I work with a number of different boat dealerships and repair shops. For example, Colorado Boat Center is a dealership that's a little bit south of me in Johnstown, and they do a lot of mechanical work and, general repairs on boats. They sell boats. They replace trailer bunks regularly. Well, replacing trailer bunks is something that I can certainly do, but I'm aware that they do that, and I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes and be greedy, knowing that that's a service they provide, right? They send me plenty of detailing on decontamination washes, are gracious enough to let me use their hoist. So understanding that, yeah, I could make a little bit extra money on replacing the bunks on a trailer, but I would rather have that business go to them than me try to just take it over and do it, because it does come back around. It comes back around in the referrals from detailing and the referrals they send from ceramic coating. And then, of course, doing all their decontamination washes on their hoist. So the same goes with liquid power sports. I don't do any mechanical work, but, a friend of mine has a shop, Liquid Power Sports. It's literally less than a mile from my shop. And we do business weekly, boat there. Guy needs an impeller and an oil change. Cool. Hey, Ryan, can you take care of it? Yeah. He calls me and says, hey, just need some carpets, pressure wash, have a little mold in the back and a swim deck clean. Perfect. And we do that trade. I'm not over here claiming to be a mechanic, and he's not over here trying to do detailing. And so it's a happy balance. And I would encourage people to go out and find that balance, right? Go talk to your dealerships. Just because they detail in how the Colorado Boat Center cleans their own boats, right? On the brand new boats, but they still send me all of the aftermarket detailing. So go talk to them, be friendly, and say, hey, is there some way we can make something work and still work together and not just totally, fight each other? The same thing is with the Gelcoat repair guys. I don't do Gelcoat repair. I send that to Landlocked Marine, and they send me all of their detail work. So it is a balance, but you'll never know unless you go and talk to them.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really great with anybody. I don't care if you're, like you said, doing boats or doing, we got a local guy here. They've been a customer of ours since, oh my gosh, early on,
since we started
2011 or
almost,
something.
yeah.
And they, we were at a dealership, and I was there doing some training with him. We were in the back, and a service writer comes running out. And he's all frantic, and he's like, dude, I just told this lady you restore her headlights. And this guy, Nate, he looks at me and he goes, oh yeah, that's fine. Send her back. We'll take care of it. And as soon as he leaves, he looks at me and he goes, I've never done this before. And so I was like, oh, I know how to do it. I can show you how to do it. And he goes, yeah, I know how to do it. I can do it, but I have no idea what to charge. And I'm like, oh, charge $65. And he's like, what? And I said, yeah, that's a good number. It's, you can change it, but just charge him like $65. So we added it in our software. By the time that lady had her car back there, that was a service that was added in that we did. And now he's got a really good relationship with that dealership. They actually hand out pamphlets for him to do stuff for their customers that don't even go to the dealership. They come to his fixed location. So you don't ever know what business is going to come your way because of a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key is you just, be good neighbor and take care of people the way you want to be taken care of. Before we got on the show, I was telling you, my middle daughter has a statement that she makes, and it's like, don't be a douche. You know when you're being a douche, and you know when you're doing something that's not right. Stop doing that, because that's going to come around,
Absolutely.
I mean, it just is.
So as you've traveled the country training, what is the biggest thing that you see is tripping up detailers who are trying to get into boats?
I think it's the correction side of things. I think it's knowing where to start on sanding when sanding is necessary. I think it's, not doing test spots and just jumping in and just, using their go-to compound in a rotary instead of taking a fair assessment at the boat and saying, okay, is this really even a candidate for something like this? I get older boats a lot that, people, I even myself, I get some boats and I look at it and go, this is not, it's too far gone. It needs to have Gelcoat repair before it can, go forward.
Yeah.
So I think the polishing, it's a totally different animal opposed to cars and car paint, right?
Yeah.
Car paint is about as thin as a sticky note, where the average mill on the Gelcoat is about as thick as your credit card, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So although you have more material to work with, you still do need to tread lightly. You can burn through on Gelcoat either through rotary or sanding too deep. And so it's knowing your limitations. But yes, to answer your question, I think just overall better training on the polishing, and then, when the sanding is needed, and then understanding that if you are sanding, that you're going to need to correct out those sanding marks to have a swirl-free finish. And that's something that, we work on at the Rupes Training Academy. We just had our first GTechniq Marine training class this past July there at Rupes facility in Superior. And I'm looking forward to doing another couple with them here later on in 2022.
Yeah, and if you get a chance to go to that facility, it's
you
phenomenal.
Gotta go.
We've been there. We got to go there when it first opened a couple of years ago. Oh my God, it's fantastic facility.
It's a world-class facility, and I would just encourage anyone, to check rupesusa.com for updates for any upcoming classes in 2022. I can't say when the next one is going to be, but there is going to be one this year. So keep checking back on their website. They update it regularly, and really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think that goes for any kind of training. I mean, we're huge advocates of not just the IDA, but of training in general. Go out and get trained. I mean, everybody. I know everybody's got something they can learn. That's kind of my thing is you can always learn something. And as you mentioned sanding, and a lot of people I think jump into sanding before they know what they're doing. Man, if you've ever spent an afternoon with Jason Kilmer, I like I said, I've worked on cars. I've done conventional body work. I've restored cars since the mid 80s. And I went to Jason Kilmer's back in the day. I went to the Jason Kilmer training at the Rag Company, and I honestly I had a little bit of I had a little chip on my shoulder. I was like both a little trepidation and a little trip. I was like, I can sand. I've done this. I got in there and watched Jason And I was like, I don't have a clue how to sand. I'm a complete idiot. And it's amazing how he sands. And just learning that and taking that piece away from it. And I was always a guy with a block about that big, man, going to town, big panels, man. I'm just going, and you're just sweating. Jason, little tiny block, and just tiny. It's like Mr. Miyagi. So you can always learn something. And in 2022, yes, absolutely. I think training is a key. We're going to have a lot of people on our show. We're going to bring in a lot of our old friends, a lot of new people that have done trainings, and really try to learn how to up your game. I've never been to a training of any kind in my entire life where I haven't learned something and taken something away from it.
Agreed.
So
I have a question for you, because I this summer, I don't know what I hit, but I hit something on my boat, and it took like a 6-inch chunk, and I had to have some Gelcoat repair done. And the guy did an exceptional job. I mean, just really exceptional job. But I got talking to him when I came back, and I'm like, man, thank you very much, man. I'm super pleased. In fact, I still need to do a Yelp review for him, and I took before and after pictures. But I got talking to him about ceramic coating, and I asked him his opinion on it, and he was not a fan. What has been your what would be your response to him, and how should people attack that on detailing side of things?
Well, I would first say I would always look at how new or old that gel coat repair is. Um,
yeah,
if you have a boat that has an older repair on it, I can almost promise you that there's some form of oxidation in that substrate,
yeah,
and you're going to want to deal with that accordingly, because we know that if you try to go and install any ceramic coating on top of that, and with that oxidation present, it's going to give that magnifying glass effect and bring it back. Um,
yeah,
a lot of times I'll get older boats that if they have repairs, like they're signing a waiver if it's a coating and they want it done. We're still going to go through our polishing techniques, minor sanding on stuff that's already had a repair, because I'm not trying to remove any more material from the boat. But yeah, it's a case by case. My own gel coat shop here, they often question it and say they don't like it. I think it's really just they don't quite understand the technology of it and how it works, and how you're putting a coating on a substrate surface that's creating a covalent bond, and then you're now maintaining that coating on that surface. And as long as that coating is maintained, all is good. But I get so many people that call and say, well, I had the boat repaired. We just want it done, and then don't want to do anything else after it. And that's why I screen very carefully about who and what I'm doing for, right? Because to me, that's not a candidate. If they're not going to take care of it and maintain it, and then they just make me the fall guy later on, because
right.
it
Yeah.
fails and I know it's going to fail, I'm not going to do it. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, the gel coat repair is interesting. I've got a boat in there right now that just had a fresh repair. So it obviously was repaired. It hasn't been in the sun yet. It's had refinement polishing done on it to make sure that the blend is, if you look at this, you can hardly tell where the repair is. They did a really good job on the color blend. But I've got that gel coat uniform to where when I go to install the coating, that surface is smooth and clean,
Yep.
and you're actually getting the correct adhesion. And that's where the polishing comes into effect, right? So many
Yeah.
times I get customers, they bring these boats, they say, oh, I had it done already, and we've been waxing it for years. Well, I know that I'm going to have to do a heavy decon on that and prep that surface
Right.
to get all that old wax and sealant off before we even begin polishing to prep for the coating. So it's
Yeah.
everything, as everyone knows, it's always in the prep.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've wondered about, and this is literally me, this is not, so place where we're at up in 2 hours away from here, there's a lot of old classic, like mahogany boats, wooden stuff. Do you ever do anything on those, or that's not a clear coat. That is a polyurethane.
Polyurethane. And I don't, there's hardly any of those boats around here, believe it or not. I mean, maybe the occasional Chris Craft here and there, but
Yep.
I bet you it's been 4 or 5 years since I've seen one here, so it's not something that I personally work on. And as far as what I'm aware of, at the moment, I'm not in the thought that you can do a coating on that because of the urethane that's on there.
Right.
I know that there's been talk of people trying to figure out something to do to put that on, but as far as what we have going at GTechniq Marine, it's not something that we deal with currently.
Yep, that's kind of what I thought. But I see up there. They even have a big regatta. They have a ton of people that come out. There's dozens of them running around, and I'm like, what do they even do to these? Because that is not a material that you can do that with. I mean, it's polyurethane, and it gets too much sun or too much this, and it's peeling right off. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So as you look back, I mean, you've been in this business a long time, both as a business owner and a trainer. What are some key things that you think have been pivotal to your success, but also something or that really caught you that you wish you would have either known or handled better?
Well, I would say that I think that just instilling and building confidence in people, for me has been huge because 20 years ago, Ron Jones is a guy that I worked for. That's where I got my start in the business and was running his detail shop out of a gas station in Loveland, Colorado. And he very early on instilled confidence. He saw in me that, I had the potential of the skill set, just wasn't quite confident in that. And so that's
Mhm.
really stuck with me all these years is that in my travels, I meet so many great guys and gals that have a great potential with skill set, but just lack the confidence. So I think those are kind of two things that go together, right? Because if you can build someone up and then they have their own self-confidence and then it allows them to build on their skill set and then they keep going with that and continue to
Yeah.
learn. You never want to stop learning. I'm learning every day still. But the biggest thing really is just, hey, I know I can do this. I see all these boats out here. I get people all the time. They say, how do you do it? Well, I like boating. It's something I'm passionate about. And then staying confident in what you do and then building on that skill set of actually doing it.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Good. Really good advice. Because I see a lot of people um, that want to feel like they are confident, but you can just see right through it. And we all have our concerns, especially when you go to a training or something. I'm real, usually people are like, you have to put a little more pressure, you get this, and I'm like, yeah, when I'm at home in my own shop, I'm not worried about that part. There's a little different level of confidence, but I think that's people don't I think that's one of the reasons people don't expand out and do other offerings is because they don't have that confidence that they can do that. And man, I'll tell you what, if I, to Jody's question of advice you'd give people over the last, 12, 15 years of looking in and doing stuff in the detailing industry, it is expand out, take what you know and expand that into something else. There's guys that do cars that are fantastic on motorcycles and vice versa. And, like yourself, and there's like 3 or 4 boat people that I think of when I think there's you obviously, and then there's the Boaties, and then Nathan Warren, which really show that out and really shine. Like, this is my thing is boats. There's a ton of people that do it, but there's a lot of people that don't, that really could. I think if they learned and they got the training, they could do that, and that really helped their business to grow.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's staying passionate about it, and I still get challenged in the summertime. I still get boats that you look at it and go, man, is this really how's this one going to come out? But it's going back to the training. It's staying consistent with always wanting to learn, and then implementing that training that you just went to, and not letting it go to waste. So many
Yeah.
times I hear people they get jazzed about it, they go and do it, and then it's a while until they do it again, and then they start to lose the skill set. And that's why even yes, I travel a lot, but I value the time in my shop of putting down the things that I've learned from Jason Kilmer on using guide coat for sanding. I mean, is for one example, right? That's even changed my game on the way that I sand.
Yep.
So it's always looking for those little nuggets, and trying to understand that, like, if I stay with something and stay passionate about it, it's going to go well. I just tell people to not give up and love what you do. I love what I do every single day. Yes, I travel a ton and I love traveling, but I love being in my shop, using my one form of artistic ability to take an old smoked out oxidized boat and having it turn into brand new.
Yeah, man, I tell you, that's such a key thing, right? Is being able to, I think a lot of people go to a training and then they never use it,
Yeah,
right? And it's like anything, any skill, if you don't lose it, the ability to use it fades.
it does.
It's like I speak Spanish, right? But if I don't speak Spanish, I can always tell when I go down to Mexico or some other place, that first day is a little rough. But man,
Right.
once I get into that second and third day, all right, let's go, man. Let's talk, right? And I think that's with any skill. If you're detailing boats or cars or whatever, if you're not going to a training and then coming home with the intent of going, look, I'm going to implement this service, I'm going to implement these techniques, you're going to lose what you invested in.
I
And so
agree,
why did
because
you do it?
when you so when you do the SOP, when you have a standard operating procedure, right? The boat changes, but that SOP is there for a reason, because it always increases efficiency. It allows you to continue to do what you're doing and doing it well into where you can actually make a profit from it, right?
Right.
You know, I
Yeah.
treat every boat I get the same way. We start washing it the same. We start to clean it, decon, then start the polishing, get it prepped and coat. And none of that change. The boat changes, but the system doesn't
Right.
change. And when you can get aligned in doing that the same way, it's the same thing I train when I'm in Fort Lauderdale, or if I'm in Santa Cruz, California. It's the same, right? So you have to think about that. You have to have that mindset of, yes, we're now on a 65 Viking instead of a 24-foot Centurion, but the idea and the prep are the same. The polishing hasn't changed, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
as long as you stay consistent in that's where it really, for me, comes through, because that's how you can. People ask me all the time, how can you go from, you're just in Colorado, you do lake boats, how can you go to Fort Lauderdale and work on a 122 fed ship? Pretty easily, right? Because we
Yeah.
keep the same mindset. We keep the prep, the wash, the prep, the polish, and the coat. It's the same. It doesn't change.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
a larger
Just
substrate or larger
format.
panel or whatever. I mean, it's the same thing, people talk about, how can you go from doing this little car to this big truck? Well, it's the same thing. You just have more panels. And
And you might need a footstool if you're me.
Sure.
yeah, you're definitely gonna need a footstool. But and you might need a different technique, a different pad, a different, machine. And I think that's all great. And so that's why, I'm really think we're fortunate. We have some great manufacturers, Rupes and Flex, and there's many others. I don't have experience with any of the other ones, but they are constantly trying to make better machines to make our jobs easier for doing what we do, and to keep that. If you don't have an SOP or even know what one is, you need to look that up, because that is a key. I mean, any training you go to, it's going to tell you whether it's a car, a boat, an RV, you do it the same way. You start the same and you finish the same, and you're going to get a similar result to the best of that particular vehicle's correctability, right? I mean, you've said it yourself. There's boats you get in there and you're like, man,
I
this
don't
one may
think
be
so.
too far gone. And then the same thing is with cars. People get cars in, and when I first started seeing people detailing, I'm like, well, there's chips all over this car. Why would you even do it? And that's the wrong mindset to have. You're doing the best you can with that vehicle, what it's got, right? It's got a chip in it. So what? You're going to polish it. You're going to do the best you can. If you're into the chip repair and you can do that as well, that's great. But the same is true with boats. Jody's boats, pretty oxidized, but it'll come out of it. I've seen that
No,
with the
it
repair and what
definitely
we,
will.
it'll come out of it. So it's just a matter of having that mindset and doing, like you said, and having a standard operating procedure. If you don't have one, hook up with somebody, go to a training that talks about it. You got another comment too.
So how do people connect with you? I mean, you are, obviously you have a local detailing shop, but you're
Yep.
also the GTechniq preferred national trainer. So how do people connect with you, man?
So you can find me a couple different ways. I'm on my website at coloradoboatdetailing.com. I am on Instagram at the Boat Whisperer, and I'm also on Facebook, Colorado Boat Detailing. And I really appreciate you guys having me on today. It's been a lot of fun. I love talking about polishing boats, coating boats. It's always a blast to kind of let people get into my world a little bit. We have a lot of fun doing this, and I really enjoy it, and I appreciate you guys very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
no.
that's feeling is mutual.
Yeah.
Look up the training sessions when you can go learn this stuff, hook up with Parker, pick his brain.
Yep.
You
Keep
are
an
like
eye
a
on
wealth of knowledge.
rupesusa.com for the updated training schedule. I know I talked with Jason Rose a couple weeks back. I know they're working on building out something sometime in the spring, but I'm not certain on exact dates yet. So just keep checking that website, and look forward to seeing some of you guys out on the road. We've got some GTechniq Marine trainings coming up. Got some boat shows in Miami and West Palm Beach. So
where do people find the GTechniq Marine Training events?
So if you go to the GTechniq website and click on Marine, there's a little button in there that you can inquire about trainings, or email jbentley@gtechniq.com.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, man, we are super honored that you took some time out of your day to spend with us. I mean, we can talk. I mean, I can keep talking because I love boats and, just learning from you. And I am really hoping that we can tap in. You and I have already talked about it. I haven't talked to Rod a little bit about it, but it'd be really fun if we could drop in and do a live at one of your boat shows with you. So we're going to look at scheduling that.
Absolutely.
And being on the road and being live. So that's fun. But
yep. And for everybody that's going to go to Mobile Tech Expo, we are looking forward to seeing everybody out there. We really, really, really appreciate all of the positive stuff. All the people that emailed or sent me messages that said that you guys nominated us and voted for us for Detail Supplier of the Year. That has been phenomenal. So thank you all very, very much. It's an honor to even just be recognized. So thank you. Hopefully we'll see everybody, like you said, out on the road, and we can all connect and get back to some handshaking.
Yeah, that was super humbling. So, well, thank you guys so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yep. And you guys that are tuned in, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we will check you same time. In fact, next week we're going from boats to aviation. Brett Berry's going to be our guest. I got him lined up. So super excited to do that next week. So you guys have a great day, and we will see you
next time.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.